Hello and welcome to the Post to Post podcast. This is podcast number 89. My name is Neil. I'm joined here with Jason, coming to you on a Sunday afternoon. We're filming this one a little bit later in the day. It's 4:05 p.m. local here, so this won't release until a little bit later on tonight, so I do apologize about that. But I would say this is a slow news week compared to last week, the whole Don Cherry thing that blew up last week. There was some other things, and obviously there was some big news this week. The firing of Mike Babcock in Toronto. I've already made a video about that on the channel. If you haven't seen it, please go check it out. But there are a couple things I do want to talk about today. And then at the end of this video, I know some people commented last week and said, I'd really like to know Brent's thoughts on the whole Don Cherry thing. And obviously he's not part of the podcast anymore, easily. But he did film a video of himself kind of talking about what he thought about Don Cherry and his thoughts and what happened. And he was much more aggressive than I think we were, but in an admirable way.
I liked
he has a very strong opinion. I just let Jason watch it here.
I liked
it. I'm going to play that at the end. It's about 15 or 17 minutes long or something like that. So the podcast will end with that. And after his video, after his audio, if you're just listening to the audio version, I'll pop back on and say goodbye and stuff. But I have a couple of things I want to talk about first before we get into the game recaps. So maybe I'll kind of talk about my couple things, and then we can talk about what you have prepared, and then finish off with the game recaps, and then go to Dad's little spiel. All right, so I've been waiting all week to talk about this. So Hathaway suspended 3 games for spitting.
Yep.
So did you see that whole incident and stuff? Think what you want about it. That's fine. It's silly. Like, it reminds me of the Brad Marchand licking situation.
No, you can lick people. That's fine.
Apparently.
You just can't spit on them.
So what's worse, the lick or the spit?
I mean, isn't that obvious?
No, I don't know.
If I had to come and tell you right now, I said, hey, Neil,
you
have to pick one of these options. I'm going to spit on you. I'm going to lick your face. What would you choose?
Spit.
I think I would too.
Yeah.
So the lick is worse.
The lick is worse. Because that's like, a spit is non-touching.
A spit is,
yeah.
It's disrespect. A lick is, I'm getting in your space and I'm like.
It's fluids you can wipe off, but a lick, you're feeling the texture of someone's body that you should never feel. Like, it's not cool, but that's okay. But it brings the question, are players suspended less or more based on their salary or status in the league? The obvious answer is no. That's what the NHL would say. But I think from history, if we look at all the suspensions and the players, I would completely disagree.
So you're saying if Connor McDavid
spit in someone's face, Connor McDavid is not getting suspended 3 games.
I don't think so.
I bet you $1,000.
No, I wouldn't take that bet.
Exactly. So if Hathaway gets suspended 3 games.
So do you think the Brad Marchand licking kind of put this on the radar, and now that this happened, they're saying, no, we're like, is that the reason why this suspension is here, is because of the licking in the past?
Well, I don't think so, because the licking happened twice. He licked someone twice.
I know.
Now, it was the playoffs. At least one of them was playoffs, if I remember correctly. So obviously suspensions and fines and everything are worth less in the playoffs because the games are more important. I understand that, but
it also got a lot. It got a lot of headlines at the time too. Like it was on news channels, like players in hockey licking people, like, and it's just Brad Marchand's tongue just like right on his. I think it was Komarov's nose. Just it's disgusting.
I would debate that got 10 times more headlines than this whole spitting 100%. Thing.
Like, you could ask my wife; she would know that Brad Marchand licked people. She would not know that Hathaway's spit on a guy.
Yeah, so I don't understand it, and it's really, really frustrating from a player's perspective, and it really has nothing to do with Brad Marchand or Hathaway. It's about the act, each individual act, and then the outcome or the result or the penalty or the fine, whatever, of the act. So it's really frustrating as a hockey fan, because if someone on my team spits on someone, I'm going to assume that they're going to get at least a 3-game suspension or somewhere near there. If
it's a pretty high precedent.
If Patrice Bergeron spits on someone, are you going to expect that he gets 2 or 3 games?
Yeah, but he would never do that.
I know he would never do that. But
I love Patrice Bergeron.
Who doesn't love Patrice Bergeron? He's an amazing player.
So say Brad Marchand spits on a guy. Is he getting a 3-game suspension?
No.
That'd be interesting.
He's getting probably a 1 or 2 game suspension which is ridiculous.
Wouldn't it have to be 3 though? Otherwise, the backlash would be crazy.
But I don't think the NHL cares. Look at his suspension history and his fine history, and he still does stuff now, and he doesn't get the lengthy suspensions or fines that he deserves, in my opinion.
Yep.
And many others' opinion. And maybe you even agree because like you're a Boston fan, so it's hard to say. But like, it's so frustrating, the inconsistency in fines and suspensions in the NHL. It's going to happen again. I'm not saying spitting specifically or licking specifically, but there's going to be something else that's silly and ridiculous. Someone's going to give someone a wet willy or something.
I wonder if they nailed him with like this is jarring a little bit, right? Like 3 games it's making everyone say like, hey, whoa, 3 games for spitting?
Yeah.
I wonder if they're doing this against a low player just to show everyone that, hey, no spitting.
That's what I'm thinking. But I've seen elbows to the head, cross checks to the back of the head, suspension worthy plays.
Oh yeah,
and them getting nothing or 1 game.
Yeah,
you're telling me that a spit in the face?
See, that's the issue I have with it. Is relatively speaking to other infractions, I guess.
Yeah,
3 games is a significant suspension.
It is, and not just play wise, but I mean financially, because he loses money for those 3 games.
Yep,
he's probably out $70,000 in those 3 games or whatever it is, or $40,000. I don't know how much he gets paid.
Yeah, I don't either.
If you're put in a room with 1 guy and another guy, so there's 3 people in this room, you have the choice. You have to choose for 1 guy to spit on you or the other guy to lay an elbow to your head and knock you out. Which one are you going to choose?
I don't get it.
You're probably going to choose this to be spat on. Anyways.
This is probably an unfair question to ask because we don't have it prepared, but do you know if he has prior suspension history?
That's something I did forget to look up before this podcast, and that's on me. I do apologize for that.
I don't know
information I should know.
Yeah, I should have looked it up too. But even then, like, can you say, hey, you checked this guy from behind, you did this, you're a dirty player.
Yeah, like
you spit, so we're escalating to 3 games now.
Yeah, like
I don't get it.
If you lay an elbow, you knock someone out, you get suspended 2 games. 2 years later, you spit on someone, and you say, "Oh, well, you're a repeat offender. You didn't."
Yeah, repeat offenders. Your spit suspension is now worth 3 instead of 1.
You didn't learn from the last time. If you threw another elbow, then you could say, "Oh yeah, okay. Obviously, you didn't learn from last time. Your first elbow, you got suspended. And you didn't learn." Like it's spit.
Like I'd say maybe he has a history of spitting, but I think we would have heard of that.
Exactly.
Like before he was suspended, like there was a lot of players saying, you know, this shouldn't be in the game. That's just disgusting. Blah blah blah. So it makes me think that this is like kind of not a repeat history of that for him, but still 3 games relatively speaking compared to other things we've seen is just, I don't know, it's laughable really.
It is quite laughable. I didn't even think it deserved a suspension, to be honest. It's completely disrespectful. Should not be in the game. It's really ridiculous and silly. Give him a fine.
It's almost as laughable as the Tesla truck.
Oh.
We won't get into that though.
No, we'll talk about that later maybe.
That'll be in a Yak podcast.
Yeah. Anyways, we'll leave it at that. You can agree or disagree down in the comment section.
I'll say I'm confused by that. That'll be my...
yeah, I'm confused as well. That's my official statement.
I could say 1 game. 3 games is a little much.
3 games isn't a lot. Okay, so the Bobby Ryan situation. So I don't know the whole story, and I don't know if anyone does, but Bobby Ryan has basically been put into the NHL assistance program. I'm not sure why. I'm not sure if it's even been released yet, and I'm not even sure if it should.
It probably won't be.
It really doesn't matter. But I will say, obviously, wish Bobby Ryan the best. Hope he gets better, whatever he's going through. But when a player enters the assistance program, whether it's for a substance abuse or financial whatever or mental, it doesn't matter. That player knows that as soon as they make that decision, that's public knowledge. So kudos to Bobby Ryan for having the balls to say, hey, I need help. Can you help me to the NHL?
Yeah.
Knowing that everyone's going to find out, and there's going to be a lot of people who judge him for it and look down on it because of it. So kudos to him for having the balls to do that. I don't know if I could do the same. I'd be really scared about that. So.
Like my work has an EAP. It's an employee assistance program, and it's done. There's a private company that's done through contract, and they pay for our access to it, I guess. And you can discuss anything. And like my wife can call. If I had kids, they could call. It goes from anything from suicide to mental illness to financial trouble.
Really?
It's anything on your plate that's causing you stress. Work never finds out about it. They don't know you've called. There's no record of that.
Really?
It's just professional help. So that's something that's available to us, but no one knows about it. Like, I go back to work the next day, I'm with all my peers. No one ever knows I made that call or I'm going through these things. And like you said, for him, it's everyone knows.
It's not anonymous. It's the opposite of anonymous.
So it's a lot easier for someone like me to be able to call. And it's still hard to ask for help.
Yes, absolutely. 100%.
Like,
absolutely.
And if you're asking for help privately, like, that takes a lot of guts to know that this is going to become public knowledge. It's tough.
That's an extremely tough decision. Yeah. So I can't say enough good things about Bobby Ryan, and I really hope whatever he's going through gets rectified, and we see him back on the ice, and or if he doesn't end up playing hockey again, I hope we see him in some fashion be extremely successful in the world of hockey or whatever he chooses to follow.
Yeah, there's a lot of times people forget that there's a personal side to this. They just think, high paid players, you're out there to score goals, get points, make checks, fight, whatever. But a lot of times we overlook the personal side of things and things that are going on that we don't see. So
absolutely. And if you guys are listening and you don't know Bobby Ryan's story, he's a really, really interesting story. I'm not going to go through it all right now. It'll take too long. But if you get the chance, or if you want to, go on YouTube or just search the internet for, just search like Bobby Ryan story or Bobby Ryan history or something like that. Him as a person, him as a player is a really interesting story. So I encourage everyone to learn a little bit more about him.
Like, he's had a good life in terms of he made his way to the NHL, but his life, I wouldn't say, was easy. He struggled.
Yep,
like time. A lot of things that a lot of people listening, I probably haven't had to deal with, and we're very lucky that we haven't.
Yeah, extremely, extremely lucky. So, yeah, just thinking about Bobby Ryan this week. So hopefully he gets better, and hopefully we get an update in the next couple of months on his progress. Okay, so the next thing I have is you'll like this, the Marc-Andre Fleury and Tuukka Rask save. I want to know your opinion. Who do you think is which one's better?
I say the Fleury one's better.
Why?
Because I just don't know how he saved it. It seemed like he was way off to the right.
Yeah.
Sorry for you podcast listeners, but I'm animating myself here.
Yeah.
And then just all of a sudden, he was up and he put just the glove was out. Like, that's a picture I would frame on this wall right here.
Yeah.
We get the new studio up, I'd have no problem put like a 14-foot version of Marc-Andre Fleury back there.
I agree.
But and it also was the save that ended Mike Babcock's career.
Honestly, like, you don't want to label it as that, but honestly, it pretty much is.
So I don't know. I just think the Fleury story in Vegas is good, and this is just another thing added to it. So
I agree.
The Tuukka Rask save was good. I don't know how his hand's not hurting because he saved it with his blocker hand, like not the blocker part, but like the inside. It was still a great save, but
see, I agree with everything you said about the Marc-Andre Fleury save. Ever watch Inspector Gadget?
Yes.
Where he makes his arms a little bit longer. Yeah. It kind of felt like Marc-Andre Fleury was doing
that. It didn't make sense that he was able to get that far across.
I know. It was remarkable.
like the remarkable. Net, it was literally a wide open net.
Yeah. But here's the thing. I think a beer league goalie could make that same save on an odd night.
I think you and I could make that save on an odd night.
It's just a bold, like, last-ditch effort save. Something you'd play, some kind of save you'd try to make in ball hockey or something. Like, it's just a total effort, not so much skill, but just like effort. I don't think it's the better save. I think the Tuukka Rask.
Really?
Yes, because it was in a moment of complete chaos in front of the net. Chaos, and Tuukka Rask, for I would say the majority of that play, maybe wasn't sure where the puck was at all. And when he found it, by the time that his eyes found the puck, it was, I would say, not necessarily a desperation, but a skill.
It was the only thing he could do.
Because if he went like this, you don't have as much control with your hand. If you go like this, and obviously he catches with the other hand, so he's not used to having this hand like that. To me, he made a conscious choice that this is the better option to make. Drop the stick, this is the better option. And he made that save. It was remarkable. It reminded me a little bit of the Jose Theodore save back when Montreal and Boston played in the playoffs in the early 2000s. Theodore kind of threw his blocker around. That was kind of a ridiculous save, but to me, that's why the Tuukka Rask save is more impressive, because he was on his butt. He was sitting down, so he had half of his body to use, and he made the conscious decision to use the inside of his blocker hand, which was going to hurt, like you said.
I wouldn't do it.
I just thought it was a remarkable save. I think the Tuukka Rask save was better, but I would probably say I like Marc-Andre Fleury better as a player and better as a goalie. But
So if at the end of the year's here and we're talking about save of the year and those are the final two candidates, are you sticking with Tuukka?
Yeah.
Really?
I am.
That's interesting.
I like Marc-Andre Fleur's personality better. I like him as a goaltender better. But I just think that Tuukka Rassier was... I think that's a save of, like... I don't think it's a save of the decade, but I think if you look at the top 10 saves of the decade, that's got to be there.
Really?
Yep. I'm that passionate.
I'll take it.
Now, speaking of saves, there was one last night that was incredible, and we'll talk a little bit later about that. But leave your comments down below and let me know which of those two saves you liked better. Maybe that should be a poll that I should put on Twitter or something. But
people have been asking for polls lately.
I did post one, and I forgot to look at the results before this podcast. Oops. I did look at the results, but I don't have them on the top of my head or to relay them. I do apologize. Okay, so the last thing I want to talk about really before the game recaps or before your news is a little piece of statistical information, and it's the reason why I'm wearing this Connor McDavid jersey. And
there's always a reason to what you wear.
Oilers hat, yeah. So, teammates with 45 points in a team's first 25 games.
Mm-hmm.
Draisaitl and McDavid, 2019-2020. Do you know the last pair of players to do this? The last time teammates got 45 points in 25 games.
Did they also play for the Oilers?
They did not.
Did they play for the Penguins?
They did.
Was it Lemieux?
Yes, that's one.
I don't know. It depends how far back we're going, I guess.
1995-96.
That's not what I thought then. I don't know. Hit me.
Lemieux and Jágr.
Okay.
So those two names are, I would say, definitely top 10 players, maybe all time in the NHL. Jágr is, God, he played until he was 44, and he's still playing hockey in the Czech Republic. Just an incredible career. Lemieux, obviously one of the all-time greats. And then you have Connor McDavid and Draisaitl. Connor McDavid will go down as one of the best players of all time. Draisaitl's, I would say, is a very underrated player.
I was just going to ask you, do you think that he's underrated because he plays in the West and a lot of us don't get to see him?
That's a huge part of it. Absolutely. I completely agree with that. And it's a shame, I said this I think 2 or 3 podcasts ago, it's a shame that all Canadians can't watch Connor McDavid on a regular daily basis and that applies to Draisaitl as well. Because most of the goals that happened in last night's game, I'll talk a little bit about it, was because of Draisaitl and not so much McDavid. McDavid scored 2 of them, but they happen because of Draisaitl. Mm-hmm. He doesn't get enough attention that he deserves. Did he have a rough year last year, maybe the year before? Sure. He still played great, but man, he looks good this year. So anyways, I just wanted to throw that little stat out there. All right, what you got for me?
All right, it's not really a big news week. They had some GM meetings on Tuesday.
They did, yes.
There's going to be another big GM meeting in March. That's kind of where they're going to discuss a lot of things. So I'm just going to give a little bit of a recap over what they talked about. So the big one was possible changes to offside.
Again.
They looked at it in 2017. This mainly concerns, I'm going to read it, but it mainly concerns of whether they should allow a skate in the air when it's over the line.
Right. This has been debated pretty heavily.
So in 2017, they threw it out, and it just keeps coming back. So they're gonna further discuss it in March. But so I'll just read what I got here. So Tuesday had the meeting. All the GMs are feeling good about the game. Obviously, they do have a desire to further discuss the rule, and they want to talk about how offside is interpreted in video review because they don't like how many goals are being called back. So part of it was to give coaches a penalty, so there's less of them, just so they don't have to deal with it as much, which has worked.
Yeah,
there is less.
Absolutely, there's way less this year.
But they want the big thing. Some of them are saying is if there's an offside and play goes on for 30 seconds and then the goal goes in, they hate rewinding that 30 seconds because of an offside goal. So they're going to be talking about that. So it's Colin Campbell. He's a senior executive vice president. He's just said, this is a quote, he said, "There's a lot of nice goals scored on a foot in the air that you have to take back. When a play goes on for 30 seconds, like I said, and the goal is negated because of a foot in the air, we had 3 general managers who spoke and felt that maybe it's time to readdress that situation." So they also talked about possession of the puck, looking specifically at the Boston and Montreal game on November 5th. So that was when Charlie Coyle, the puck was passed him in his skates, and he took it in his skates across the line.
Right.
And then they ended up blowing that back, saying he didn't have possession. And they want to know now that since players are more skilled, does playing the puck with your skates, is that now considered possession?
It absolutely should be. Sidney Crosby is one of the best players in the league when it comes to using his feet with the puck, and I would argue that 95% of the time, anytime the puck is in Sidney Crosby's feet, it's either intentional or in a
he takes passes to his skates all the time and just bloop, pops it right up to his stick.
Yep.
So, Colin Campbell also went on to say, I think we're always trying to be progressive and reward offense. I think our players are much more talented than players of the past. I can say that because I was one of them. But these players, the talent they have now, I think they have to take that into consideration with what they can do with the puck on those possession control plays on the blue line. I don't know why I didn't give you a copy of this, but I guess it doesn't really matter. However, Dale Talon, the Florida manager GM, he doesn't want to even talk about that. He says, as it is now.
Did he give a reason?
I'm going to read you his quote, and I think you may agree with it. You may also agree with I'll just read it and you'll say. So it says the rule book is pretty tight. Offside is offside. It's black and white as far as I'm concerned. If you start messing around with different rules and different applications to the rules, then it gets confusing.
I guess, but I don't disagree.
Like, I guess it comes to what do you like? Would you rather we look at the camera and if it's a millimeter off, it's off and it's offside, or do you want there to be the wiggle room that there was in the past that we didn't know about because we didn't have 50 million camera angles and slow video?
I want the call to be right. So I don't care if it takes a little bit longer to get it right. Now, the skate in the air thing, that doesn't bother me. You can put a skate in the air.
So if you're a foot in, but your skate's in the air.
That's fine. I don't care.
Yeah,
as long as that skate is on the blue line or touching the blue line in the air, whatever. Technology's good enough now to be able to determine that. That's totally fine with me. I just want the call to be right. I don't care if it takes 5 minutes.
So if your skates are on the ice and you're offside, it's offside. If they're in the air and your other skate's good, you're fine with it.
Yes.
Okay, I'm actually agree with that. Okay. I didn't think we'd be on the same page there, but we are. General consensus against the GMs. This is just them talking about the opinion of the game and some of the stats that came out. They say the game is very healthy, particularly because of all of the goals this season and comeback victories. There's actually been quite a few comeback victories. There was actually one last night.
I don't want to talk about it.
So this is a quote from the Arizona Coyotes general manager, John Chayka. It says the game's in a good place. Lots of offense going on, lots of goals being scored, and leads being blown. It's just good to have a discussion about it all. And I agree with that.
Yep, I agree.
That's what you want. There's been a bunch of statistics. I'm not going to get into those. That's just stuff. The average length of a regulation game is down to 148 minutes. It's the lowest since 2012-2013. So they're very happy with that. They're always looking at ways to make the game faster.
Yep.
They feel that number is a direct result of changes made for the season aimed at reducing the number of coaches challenges. So we kind of talked about that a couple minutes ago. That was from adding the minor penalty. There were also 3 fewer stoppages leading to an NHL faceoff per game. That's kind of crazy, right?
3 fewer whistles?
I guess so.
3 fewer faceoffs?
Yeah,
this is just on average.
Yeah.
Like from this year to last year?
It says 3 fewer stoppages leading to faceoffs per game. Result of goalies freezing pucks on shots from the opposite side of the red line.
Interesting.
It's crazy how weird little things like that they track.
Yeah, just a little tiny change can, It
says the GMs have made a number of small changes to increase the game flow, and it seems to have worked. The feedback from the GMs has been excellent in this regard. And then I put this quote here because we can have a little bit of a discussion on this. They said he also feels the officiating has been strong. What is your opinion on that? I would say I agree with it, but I think there's been a couple obvious blunders.
Yeah, like I would definitely agree with that statement for the most part. However, there's been the odd game where there's been like that New Jersey Montreal game last week. There was 9 penalties in the third period. Like, that's ridiculous. Like, either the game didn't change that much. I watched the game.
Yep.
The first and second period wasn't that much different than the third period. Like, you're telling me that there was 1 penalty in the first period, 2 in the second, I think, and 9 in the third? That's ridiculous. Get some consistency.
Yeah, like last night in the Boston game, Jack Edwards is going on a little tangent about how many penalties Bruins were getting. I thought he was going to get himself into trouble, and I even was on the Discord and the group chat for it, and I said, I think Jack Edwards is going to earn himself a little bit of a fine, but right at the moment when I thought he was just going to go over the line, he pulled back. I don't know if someone got in his ear and told him to shut up. But
okay. Interesting.
He was calling out the ref by name and saying, he's the guy who did this back to us here, and blah, blah, here goes another.
That sounds very much like Jack Edwards.
It was bad. It was not a good look, so Nesson, smarten up. Don't be doing that. They also talked about injured players and play stoppages, and we talked about this, the player who got hit in the head, Matt Calvert.
Yes. So
they said that's Rule 8.1. They didn't stop the play when he was hit in the head by a shot from Elias Peterson. The officials let the play continue because the Canucks had the puck, and then they scored on the play. It says the rule states that play shall not be stopped until the injured player's team has secured control of the puck, though officials can decline to stop play if the team is in a scoring situation. So that, I guess that comes to, we can't blame the refs, which is what Nathan MacKinnon said.
Right.
The rule is written poorly.
It is written poorly.
So I know we already talked about this, so let's not get into this again. But let's say you take a puck to the face and you're bleeding like crazy, but the other team's in a scoring situation. That means that play doesn't get blown down because they could potentially score in that play.
But I don't understand that logic, because I think logically they're getting a power play unintentionally. Why should they be favored by an accident? Do you know what I mean? Like yeah, basically that opposite? Guy is taken out of the game. So, for example, if you have a man down and now it's the 5-on-4 is what you're saying. So if Colorado, that play went differently. Puck goes off Calvert's face. He's down. Colorado gets the puck, goes back up the ice, and scores a goal. If they can score a goal with 4 players, good on them. Yeah. Why should Edmonton or whatever the other team was, get the advantage because of an accident for another, like an injury on the other team? Why should they get a fake power play? Like, it doesn't make any sense.
Do you think they're worried about gray area? Do you think they'd rather the rule be black and white so that they don't have to say, well, this looks kind of bad. I'm not sure if this guy's kind of...
I think the NHL is always worried about gray area.
Because players do embellish.
Oh, absolutely.
But I don't think you're embellishing when you got blood coming out of your head.
No.
Like literally out of the side of your face. Like not like your lips or your mouth, like literally the side of your face.
No, I agree.
So anyway, they just summed up that part of the meeting by saying if they believe it's a serious injury, we want them to stop the play. So obviously the refs have been talked to. Hopefully if something like that in the future happens, they'll react a little better to it.
I definitely will say that the NHL's become very good at recognizing an issue mid-season and making a change right away versus the old NHL where you had to wait till the season was over and then a rule change or something like that. So
see, that's kind of why I don't like football at all. Like, it's kind of weird. I just have no interest in it. But the NFL is not scared to try different things. Like, they make rule changes all the time. Hockey's like, oh, we don't want to tarnish the past. We don't want to change things, even though they are changing things. But it's good when a change needs to be made. It should be made. You shouldn't have to wait.
I agree. There's no reason
till the end of the season.
Yeah.
I have a little note here on Hockey Fights Cancer, just because a lot of the games last night were featured in it. And if you noticed, a lot of the ads had like the pink logos on it. I just wanted to say that it's the 21st year that the NHL and the NHLPA has been working with the cancer societies and raising money, and it happens every October, November. It goes the same with Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and I think it's a very good initiative. Everyone, I think, hearing this probably knows someone that's had cancer. So it's just...
Yeah, if you look at the big sports, there's basketball, there's football, NASCAR, golf, whatever. NHL is kind of behind all of those in terms of status. But I think the NHL, and I hope this isn't a biased opinion, I think the NHL do the best of any other professional sports league at raising for awareness of causes like with the military, supporting the troops, and the Hockey Fights Cancer and stuff. I applaud the NHL for the work that they do, and not just like the NHL as a corporation, as a business, but the individual teams as well.
And the players, the players will go visit sick kids. They'll have jerseys that they auction off that are signed, those limited like pink or purple cancer jerseys.
I'm not saying that stuff doesn't happen in any other leagues. No. It totally does. It happens in the NFL. The players there are great too, but I'm just saying that I think that the NHL has always, at least in recent history, done a really good job at that. Especially with like kids, I would say, like there's been a lot of kids that my memory's terrible. You know this. Like, for all you out there, like I have a terrible memory. But like there was the little guy in Boston. Everyone knew him at the time. He was really sick. He ended up dying. Yes. There was the little girl in Ottawa, was it? Or I can't remember. There was another, like when those stories were going on, like almost everybody around knew
about those kids' stories. So I think that's just great.
If you look at the story last year in St. Louis,
yes, that's who I was thinking of, was Layla. Yes,
yeah, Layla. So it's a big deal. Like, it's not just about the St. Louis Blues at that point. It's about,
and the players take time to meet them, like off the ice. They meet them before the game. They say good luck, and then when the game's over, they say, "Hey, you were the reason we won the game." And make the kid feel real good.
Exactly.
That stuff's awesome.
Because like, cancer just doesn't affect fans and whatever. Like, you look at Phil Kessel. Phil Kessel had cancer. Saku Koivu had cancer. Like, there's other players around the league over time and history who have dealt with cancer. So it's really important.
Okay, the last thing I don't want you to flip this over yet, because before we went on, I told Neil not to come into the room because I wanted to read this.
Okay.
I want to talk about Keith Yandel.
Keith Yandel.
Do you know what the deal with Keith Yandel is?
I don't.
So Keith Yandel last night against the Carolina Hurricanes lost 9 teeth.
Whoa.
He missed the second period, came back in the third.
Dang.
He had dental work this morning. He's playing tonight.
Yeah.
Keith Yandel is currently tied for 4th of the all-time Iron Man streak in the NHL. It will not be broken from him losing 9 teeth.
Wow.
So you can flip now. I have a little chart.
That's impressive.
That shows the current all-time NHL. So he's just behind Andrew Cogliano, whose streak is over. It ran out in 2018.
Do you know why?
No.
He got a suspension.
No way.
I'm pretty sure he got a suspension. I think he was one that kicked the ref on a face-off by accident or something like that.
And they suspended it for him?
Yeah, he got a suspension for it.
I don't know.
I think that was it. It's, man, like you, my memory's a little bit off, but...
So right now, Andrew Cogliano's at 4th. He's at 830. Keith Yandel's at 820, so he's only 10 games behind. So 10 more games, and he ties or surpasses, takes over 4th place. And the only 3 that are in the top 10, or the only 3 that are in the top 10 of all time right now, are Keith Yandel, Patrick Marleau, and Phil Kessel, who are 5, 6, and 7,
they're the
respectively.
only active ones.
Yep.
Wow.
So I thought that was crazy. Like, obviously, the Iron Man streak means something to Keith Yandel. Because there is no way if I lose 9 teeth, I'm going to work tomorrow.
Exactly. I'm staying home laying in bed watching Netflix.
Absolutely.
Keith Yandel, 820. Patrick Marleau, 808. Phil Kessel, 798. All really impressive.
So, yeah, just for those of you listening, like, Keith Yandel has been at every single NHL game since October 4th, 2007.
That's amazing.
That's a super stat if I've ever heard one.
I like Keith Yandel more than I did before this podcast, but generally I don't like Keith Yandel. Do you want to know why?
Oh, you know what? I have to correct myself before I just read Andrew Cogliano stats. He's been playing since March 26, 2009. I read the 4th place instead of the 5th place.
Okay.
So he hasn't been playing since 2007. He's been playing since 2009 on this Iron Man streak. Still pretty good though.
Yeah. Okay.
Over 10 years.
That's impressive. That's crazy, actually.
Can you imagine going to work every day for 10 years?
Depends on my job. If I was in the NHL, I'd probably try and do it. But I mean, if I'm working at...
But I mean, yes, especially with the NHL, with injuries. Like, injuries are common. Like,
that's tough.
And do you notice another thing about this sheet? This is why I printed the chart. Do you notice the position of every other one of those players on that? They're forwards. Defensemen play a way more physical game.
Yeah, it's true. You're getting defensemen up over 30 minutes a game.
So he already is the highest of defensemen of all time.
That's super impressive.
And he's still going.
Yeah.
That's why I liked it. The main reason was because he played defense.
And he's not just an average defenseman. He's a really good defenseman. Yeah. Do you want to know why I don't really like Keith Yandel?
I thought you just said you did like him.
No. I like him more now than I did before this podcast. What I heard. But I want to tell you why I don't really like Keith Yandel.
Is it something silly or is it?
Yeah, it's something real silly.
Okay, I like silly things.
So when he was with the Arizona Coyotes, each team kind of has... Some teams have YouTube channels, some teams don't. The Arizona Coyotes do. And in one of their behind-the-scenes videos, they do fun things. Like they go for a drive and they talk to each other and they put it on YouTube. In this specific video, Keith Yandel and I can't remember the other player were trying chocolate from Canada.
No way.
And they made Keith Yandel try a coffee crisp bar, and he hated it.
And that's why you hated Keith Yandel.
I don't hate him.
I hate coffee crisp.
Oh, what?
It's so bad.
No, it's not. Coffee crisp is amazing. Wow.
That's an intense reason to not like a player.
I like Keith Yandel more after this podcast, and I like you less.
That's all right.
Unacceptable.
And yeah, other than that, not much news going on this week.
Yeah, it's been actually a bit slow.
Which is all right. That means there's nothing really drama going on.
There's nothing wrong with that.
A lot of hockey going on.
So there was a ton of games on last night. I'm going to try and get through these as quickly as I possibly can. I have a lot written down here, so I apologize if it sounds like I'm reading. Because that's the case. I'm literally reading off my laptop here.
We just have to get to Brent's piece too, so we're trying to keep it around an hour. So
exactly, yeah. We're at 34 minutes right now. So okay, so the first game yesterday was the Vancouver-Washington game. Vancouver won 2-1 in a shootout. Washington got the quick goal, first goal in under 3 minutes in the game, and after that, Markstrom pretty much shut the door.
Mm-hmm.
Goes to a shootout, and really, it really doesn't matter if you're Washington. It doesn't matter if you're LA. It doesn't really matter where you are in the standings. Anything can happen in a shootout.
Mm-hmm.
Like some teams just have a lot of skilled guys, and maybe they don't have a skilled goalie. Maybe he gets hot. Like, it's just, you can't predict shootouts. Like, it's wild. Anyways, Vancouver won in the shootout. Congratulations to them. Markstrom was 0-7-1 against Washington before this game. It was his first win against Washington as a goaltender.
That sounds like a Bruin stat.
The game after that was the Calgary-Philadelphia game. Calgary won 3-2 in a shootout. Extremely important win for Calgary. They've basically turned into the Toronto Maple Leafs of the West, and Toronto Maple Leafs prior to their two recent wins, we'll say. A team full of skill and a team that can't win. I believe they were on a 5 or 6 game losing streak. Things were not looking good. So this was an extremely important win for the Calgary Flames. I thought they were really, really feisty, and both teams actually. Philadelphia's pretty feisty too, but especially Calgary around the net. I thought they were extremely feisty, and that was really good. Like, that's really important to see because Calgary is a feisty team. That's usually how they play, and they haven't really been playing like that too much recently. And so it was good to see them bring that back into their game last night. The second Philadelphia goal was a terrible play by Riddick. I'm not sure if he saw it, but basically he stopped the puck behind the net and gave it away, and Philadelphia got a free goal for the most part. But anyways, Calgary scores with minutes left in the third to secure an extra point and then get that win in the shootout. So a big important win for them. 38 shots on net, 60% in the dot for the Flyers. It's a tough loss for them.
Yep.
You get 38 shots in net, have the majority of the faceoffs won, and you lose in a shootout. That's a tough loss to swallow. The game after that was the Arizona-LA game. Arizona won 3-2. A lot of empty seats in LA. Is that concerning? You have a team that just won Stanley Cup twice in the last decade, and you're having trouble filling the arena. There's a lot of empty seats last night.
I was just going to say, I haven't really been hearing a whole lot of LA stories this year.
I'm pretty quiet.
Unless I'm actively looking at it, very quiet.
And that has something to do with the market as well, because we're in Eastern Canada, they're in Western United States, they're in an opposite conference that we're used to watching. So,
but when they were good, you heard about them.
When they were good, you heard. So yeah, you're right. Arizona's third goal was an empty net goal to make it 3-1, but LA, they still made a game of it. They came back and made it 3-2 with a couple minutes left. It's not like LA didn't have their chances. 45 shots on net. So, again, tough loss. So a big player like Drew Doughty, I just want to ask you this question. Do you know how much Drew Doughty's making? He just signed a contract recently. He's getting paid pretty handsomely.
Is it 10 or 11?
It's $11 million.
Yeah, so I thought it was 11, but I wasn't.
Do you agree, and I think we've talked about this in the past, but I don't remember your take on it. Do you agree with rewarding a player for what they've done in the past for your team, or rewarding a player for what their potential is in the upcoming years?
I don't think we've had that conversation.
If we have, I don't remember it. Because Drew Doughty...
this is a tough one because there's examples on every side. Yeah. Like you have... You can, like, if you look at Toronto specifically, you're paying your kids really before they've done anything.
Yeah.
Like you're paying for potential. You've got Chicago...
I was about to say that.
...who is paid for past success. Now, if I had to pick one... I don't know, because I would say neither one is in a great spot right now. Like Toronto's looking a little better now. Like just when you look at contracts like Boston has, like I'm sorry to say Boston, but Boston has players that are performing well on very, very team-friendly contracts.
Yes.
That's what you need.
That is what you need.
I don't know if that's going to happen much anymore. It seems like the players are, especially the younger players, are in the driver's seat now. Like maybe other GMs won't roll over like Kyle Dubas did, maybe. But
the trend has switched.
It seems like it. You used to have your bridge deal, right?
Yes.
You start off as a player, you're really good. I need to take that 2-year contract where I don't get paid much. I prove that I'm worthy of the money, and then I get paid.
Mm-hmm.
I like that system. I think that worked pretty good. I think when you're in your upper 20s and you get a big contract, that's not going to look too great on the back end.
Yeah, Drew Doughty's 29.
That's rough
right now, and he's getting paid $11 million for probably the next, I think it's like 6 or 7 years, whatever it is.
That's rough.
Yeah,
like you can't say he's not important to the team.
He's one of the most important players on the team, if not the most important player. He's a defenseman. He plays huge minutes.
And you also have to project down the road a couple years with the salary cap going potentially significantly up with the new TV deal in the States. The more years
pass, the better that contract looks. Right. For the most part, is from a cap perspective.
As long as it keeps going up.
As long as the cap keeps trending up.
There should be a new TV deal in the States which should put it up significantly.
Yeah. But I'm torn on this one. I don't know if I have a solid opinion. If I'm a Chicago fan and I look back at my team and I could say, man, my team won the Stanley Cup 3 times in the past 10 years. That's amazing. I don't really care about the team now. Like, if they can win, they'll win, whatever. But my team won the Stanley Cup 3 times. That's incredible for this, like the current NHL, the new NHL. Like, that's amazing. I'm okay with Jonathan Toews making what he does and Patrick Kane making what he does, paid based on what they did. Because I can say as a Chicago Blackhawks fan, that's awesome. If I'm a Toronto Maple Leafs fan and I'm seeing these big contracts go out and I'm seeing my team go out in the first round of the playoffs every single year, I'm pretty frustrated.
And right now on the outside looking in.
Yeah, I'm pretty frustrated. So maybe this year's different. New coach. We don't know yet. But as we know so far, since the Leafs, well, we'll say 3 years. The past 3 years of the Leafs, it's been frustration. So I don't know. I can see both sides. That's tough.
I don't know if there is an answer to that question, really. It depends on what kind of fan you are, I think, because I think there are a lot of fans that say, especially like an older fan, like if you get the chance to see a championship or 2 or 3, then you're just grateful for that. If you're a young Chicago fan right now and they won those 3 cups when you were still young, like maybe you're still going to school or whatever, that becomes the expectation.
It's true.
And those fans want people like Toews gone because if we're paying this guy too much, we need to rebalance our sheets here.
That's true, yeah.
So I think depending on what kind of fan you are, like, and especially with the league the way it is now with the parity, it's really hard. Like, there's no guarantee your team is going to be in the playoffs next year. Like, anything can happen.
Look at
Tampa.
Look at Buffalo. They came out to a strong start the past 2 years, last year and this year. Look at them now. They've fallen back down. You can't. It's so hard to predict. The year that I think Colorado ended the season with like 48 points or something ridiculous. And the next season, they almost took down Nashville in the first round. And then last year, they did take down the first round. They took down Calgary in the first round. Like, that's how do you go from getting 45 points or whatever it was, 50-some points in a season, to making the playoffs and taking down one of the best teams in the league almost. I just think it's incredible. So it's hard to predict. Yeah. Like
when predictions are hard, that's when you know the parity is real and anything can happen.
And that's what the NHL wants. The NHL wants parity. And I think as fans, I mean, I guess I can't speak for all fans, but for me, no offense to Chicago Blackhawks fans or that team, but I don't really want to see Chicago win another Stanley Cup.
You've had yours now. It's time for someone else.
Exactly. Last year, who won the Stanley Cup? St. Louis Blues. Do I like them? Sure do. Do I want them to win the Stanley Cup this year? Sure don't.
It makes it tough for, like, I'm not going to say it makes it tough for owners because screw owners, really. Like, owners are fine. I'm not worried about owners. I don't even know, like, owners want to win, but as long as their businesses are making money, I'm sure they're happy too. But for people like GMs and coaches, yes, there is an element to what they do to create success for the team, but there's also just that chance that anything can happen, right?
Yeah.
It's true. Like, there's no guarantee. Like, you could put a great team together that plays well one season, come back with the same team the next year, and just perform significantly worse.
Yeah.
Or significantly better.
Tampa.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's tough.
It's amazing, really.
I think contract situations are tough. Like if you get the contract situations like Boston has, I would say those are very team-friendly contracts. Those are not pro-player contracts. The players' union is going to want those players to make more than that.
Right.
Especially with what that line is doing, those players on that line.
Absolutely. You could even argue that Braden Point took a discount.
100%.
So, I mean, when you have players like Braden Point take a discount,
So
what's that say about players who aren't taking a discount?
Are you on the side that, like, if you had to take a side, do you want players to take team-friendly discounts, or do you think they should be paid relative to their performance?
I think there should be rules and regulations on how much you can make depending on your age. If you're 24 and younger, you can't make over $7 million a year. And that goes up as the cap goes up. But if you're over 25, get paid whatever you want. That forces a bridge deal.
So that's kind of, well, it's not kind of, but baseball has that kind of where they can keep a player down in the minors and keep their games down so that they can further delay when they have to put that big contract. So, a really good baseball player is like 22, 23 before they hit that big contract. Where in hockey now, we got 20-year-olds making like $10, $11 million.
And it's not just the NHL contracts, it's the sponsorship deals and stuff. And
so if I was the players union or you were the players union, I said, hey, Austin Matthews, no, $800,000.
Yeah, like I don't, like that's pretty low.
There's no way you could say $5 million. There's no way the union's taking that. And in order for the NHL to bring something in like that, which would never happen, but there would have to be, okay, we'll give you that, but what are you giving us in return?
Well, I think that I agree, but it's like it solves the offer sheet thing a little bit.
It does, but there's no way the union's going to agree to a change that says we're going to put a cap on how much money you can pay us.
Well, I think the cap should go up if this rule was put in place.
But the cap is a 50-50 split, so that would be the owners giving back,
right?
Which the owners aren't going to want to do either.
But they got to do it. Anyway.
Friggin' business, man.
Yeah, that's business. All right, next game, the Toronto-Colorado game. Toronto won 5-3. Toronto led in the first goal again.
I don't know how we got talking about that. Like, sorry to bring that up, but just off we go.
30 seconds into the game, Colorado scored. But anyways, 2 wins in a row since the coaching change in Toronto. Is that a good enough sample size to think that things are fixed?
Depends who you're asking. Toronto fans are dancing in the streets right now.
Yeah.
I will say one thing about Sheldon Keefe. Dude's got a calm and cool demeanor.
He certainly does.
You can tell he's happy to be there. You can tell he's taking everything in. You can tell the players like him. I think over half the players played for them in the Marlies. There was a little clip of him in the arena last night. I don't know if he was in the dressing room or if it was just somewhere in the arena, and you just see him just like looking like a boy in a toy store, just like gazing around and just taking it all in. I like that. I think that's awesome. Dude's definitely happy to be there. One thing that's like, I know you already made the video about Mike Babcock, but Kyle Dubas is very analytics based. Super. His whole staff is analytics based. Mike Babcock, I would say, is not. He's an old school coach. He may take some of it to heart, but like it's confusing. Like, it's obvious that Mike Babcock was doing what he wanted to do, right? Like, you have a whole department with Kyle Dubas that's crunching numbers and saying, this is the formula that's going to make our team successful.
Right.
Here you go, coach. And the coach is saying, I don't like that. I'm going with these guys.
Mm-hmm.
So now he's got a guy in there that believes the same way he does. Like, these guys have been together forever.
Yeah.
Like they're a team.
And they've not just done things before. They've won.
They've been successful. Mind you, the Marlies are by far the highest paid team in that league, but I'm not saying they bought their championship, but obviously the dude's got something.
Exactly.
And it's not to say all the players like him. Like, maybe he's a hard ass on some things, but you can't have a coach that's your friend.
Yeah.
You have to, there has to be a line of sternness and support.
You can joke around with your coach and stuff too. Mm-hmm. Same as a boss. Like, you might have a boss at work that he's friendly and stuff, he jokes around, but at the end of the day, you have to realize that he's still your boss.
You have to be accountable to him.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. If he tells you to do something, you should probably do it. And I noticed this on the bench last night in the game. If you look back at old footage of not that it's old, but
no, it's old now.
Of Babcock, when he talks to players on the bench, most of the time what I've seen is the players look straight forward, nod their head, yada yada yada. I noticed in the game last night when Keefe was talking to his players, they did this. They looked around, engaged him directly, talked to him, weren't just like nodding the head, yeah. They actually had a conversation with him, and I think that is the best sign, if you're a Maple Leafs fan, is when you have your players engaging with your coach on the bench and not just fake listening to him.
Mm-hmm. And I think that's why coaching changes can work sometimes.
Yep.
Because I had this written down to put in this podcast, and of course I don't know what I did with it. There was a reporter that talked to someone in the dressing room, and they said 90% of the players wanted the coach gone.
Wow. I mean, that doesn't surprise me, but
they were ready.
Yeah, they were ready.
So
I wonder if Dubas had a conversation with each individual player before they made the decision. I'd like to say selfishly yes, but I think the answer is no.
I'd say probably not. Not every player.
No.
But no. I think they knew, like when the season ended last year and they were asking if Mike Babcock was coming back, he was like, we're going to reevaluate everything.
Yeah.
And he said, it includes me. We're going to look at me and my performance. We're going to look at Mike. And I think they gave him the start of the season to the benefit of the doubt. And then when they went on that big losing streak and it was clear they had a players only meeting. And then I assume out of that players only meeting became a talk with the GM and say, hey, what's the vibe of the room? Well, the guys aren't taking him very seriously anymore, that he's lost the room. So I think that's why it was made, because the timing was weird.
It was a little strange.
Like in the middle of a road trip.
Yeah. I have a stat for you last night. Or not really a stat, but anyways, John Tavares played 22 minutes and 31 seconds last night. It's a pretty good amount of time. Mm-hmm. Do you know why that number is significant?
Why?
That's his highest time on ice as a Toronto Maple Leafs player.
And they got Tyson Barrie on the power play now. He's switching the lines up. Tyson Barrie's got 2 goals now, I think, and 2 points last night. So
yeah,
obviously Tyson Barrie's happy with the coaching change. So
exactly, yeah.
I mean, I think this is a good thing for Toronto. I think when you have a group of like young millennial kids and an old school coach, I don't think that jives.
It's like sometimes
and it's not like
work.
It's not like there's been people in the past who haven't said the same things about Mike Babcock. Like when he left Detroit, they were ready for him to leave.
Oh, absolutely. So
he's just abrasive, I guess, and rubs people off the wrong way, and
very stubborn.
Mm-hmm. Inflexible.
I don't know where he goes. I don't know if he does go. I think you might see a break for Babcock, and we have a new team coming into the league. Mm-hmm. I'm not saying he's going to be the coach. I don't think he will be, but he might be involved in some fashion.
Do you think he'll be involved with Hockey Canada?
Yes.
So if there's a World Cup, Olympics, probably not.
Spengler Cup, whatever. Yeah, I think he's...
Yeah?
Yep.
Do you think he still gets the nod, or do you think they look for an active coach? Specifically talking about World Cup.
No, for World Cup, no. He does not get the nod.
Do you think Joe Quenneville would get the nod over him?
No.
Because a lot of people last time were saying that Joe Quenneville should have been the coach.
And I don't necessarily disagree with that. I don't think that happens.
His track record with the Canadian team doesn't give you a reason to not invite him back as the coach.
Yeah, there's so many coaches that Canada could pull from, even coaches that aren't coaching.
And then it comes back to the argument of, do you even really need that good of a coach when you have some of the best players in the world all on one team that are all buying in, right?
Exactly. Yeah. There's coaches out there who have not coached in a couple of years. Michel Therrien, Alain Vigneault, who's, he had a tough ending with the Rangers, and I mean that's a good problem to have, is when you have so many people to choose from. But anyways, I don't think Mike Babcock gets the call, but I'm not saying that he's not involved in some way. Mm-hmm. But yeah, anyway, important win for Toronto. The game after that was the Columbus-Winnipeg game. Winnipeg won 4-3. Now, Hellebuyck has been playing quite a bit, if not almost every single game, and playing extremely well. Very underrated this year. Not a lot of people have been talking about him. But Brassois got the start last night, and he got the win. That has to make the Jets players feel pretty good. When you have your star goaltender, either he needs to take a break or he's told to take a break. When you have your backup come in and he gets the win, that's got to feel good as a player. Every Blue Jackets goal in that game was a power play goal by them. I wanted to ask you, what do you think the Winnipeg Jets are going to be practicing next practice? Probably the penalty kill?
Yep.
What do you think the Blue Jackets are probably not going to practice the power play? The fourth goal by the Jets in that game was a bit of a flop. So Winnipeg did get lucky, but I mean, a win is a win, and I'm not taking anything away from the win, but I just wanted to point that out if you haven't seen the highlights. The Boston-Minnesota game, I'm assuming this is the game that you watched the most of.
Yep.
Boston won 5-4 in overtime. A rare 3-0 early in the game for Boston. Did you see that?
Yep.
And they didn't score.
Missed.
Stalock shut the door.
Yep.
But it was 4-2 for Minnesota with less than 2 minutes left in that game. Boston scores twice to send it to OT, and then Krug, with an unbelievable play from his own end, he just took his time, walked up the ice, saw an opening, put the Jets on, went in and scored, and had an amazing celebration.
So that's the reason I'm wearing this nice Bruins. I don't know what you call this, either a vintage sweater or an ugly Christmas sweater.
Yeah, it's. I think it's right in the middle. If you're an audio listener, it kind of looks like
from the top up, it looks like an old knitted grandma sweater, kind of. Yeah. And then it's got like the years of the Bruins.
The year's cool on the arm.
Anyways, I thought about wearing this in memory of Krug. Well, not in memory of Krug, but in honor of Krug. I watched this game with my dad last night. I was over at his house. We were flipping between this and the Montreal game. And my dad, who is unlike me, I'm very negative on the team. I say 2-0 lead, worst lead in hockey. We're going to lose this game.
Yeah.
So Dad took a page out of my book last night. There was 2 minutes left in the game. He flips it over to the other game.
Oh, no way.
Because he thought it was over. It was 4-2.
Yeah.
So anyway, I'm just like, okay, whatever. And so I'm on Discord, and people are saying we scored. So I said, hey, flip that back. And then there's Krejci celebrating. Dad's like, holy frig, I pulled a page out of your book, and I thought this team was done. I said, see, there you go. So we watched the game. They tied it up, and we were like, we have no business being in this game, which we didn't. So then it goes to overtime, and I got to say, for a 3-on-3 overtime, that was fantastic. There was chances on both ends. Yeah. It was exciting.
Big saves.
Shout out to Franz on Discord. His heart was in his throat a couple times when I thought for sure we were going to put it in. And then when Krug just back behind the goal line, just taking his time, it was man-on-man coverage, and then the two Bruins wingers just kind of went off to the boards. And what's weird is the Minnesota players went with them.
Yeah.
So it opened up the middle, so Krug just turned on the Jets, like you said, and breakaway.
Good on him for having that awareness.
Like, how do you go from behind your own goal line to a breakaway?
I know.
It doesn't make sense. You don't see that very often.
No, you do not.
And then he scored, and Dad and I just jumped off the couch, and I was just like, yeah, Mom came down from upstairs to see what was going on. We were hooping and hollering around. I thought it was awesome. So I said, great. Tomorrow on the podcast, I'm wearing this old sweater.
Heck yeah.
In honor of Krug.
Yeah. Not good for me as a Canadiens fan to see Boston get another 2 points, but
not good for you to be a Canadiens fan for another reason too.
Nope, that's a pretty good segue because the next game I want to talk about is the Rangers Montreal game. Rangers won 6-5. Montreal got up to a 4-0 lead. Then they led in 3 goals. They scored one more, made it 5-3, and then led in 3. Unreal. They should be completely embarrassed. Carey Price isn't all to blame. I'm not blaming everything on Carey Price, but he wasn't great. Some of the goals, it was like he wasn't trying. That's what you get with Carey Price. He's such a good goalie positionally that a lot of times he doesn't have to do all these acrobatic saves and crazy saves and whatever. And that's the that's the pro of Carey. But it's also the con of Carey because sometimes when he is at a position,
he can't pull the flurry.
It's like he doesn't care enough to try to get into position or to make the dive save or to. It's just like he just gives up. It's so frustrating.
See, I don't know if it's fair to say that he doesn't care, but I've actually observed that too. Where if he goes down on his knees and then there's like a pass to the side and it goes in, he just turns his head and looks at it.
He just looks at it. It drives me crazy.
Like, I didn't know if that was just me that thought that. So that's interesting you said that.
Yeah, he just has low energy, or he just again, I don't know if it's that he doesn't care. It's just that
unless he just has the IQ that he knows he physically can't save that, so why try? Which I mean,
you gotta try.
You still gotta try, but
like if you've got a goalie that just flops and goes all over the place, lets in the goal. I could say, oh, at least he tried.
Yeah, Boston's had goalies like that, and Dad just like, oh, there he is, flopping all over the place like a wet fish.
Yeah, but I'd rather say, look at that.
But that's better than just sitting there and looking at it go in.
It's so frustrating. Anyways, kudos to the Rangers team for coming back from that deficit, and not just coming back, but you're down by 4 goals in the first period early, and you don't pull the goalie. You have a goalie that let in 4 goals. You don't pull him. You stick with him. The team stays with it. I think it's super impressive. Good on the Rangers for doing that. And like to your point earlier, there's been a lot of comeback games this year. So
Carey Price is making 10-5.
Yeah.
Do you think that's an issue for Montreal?
Yes.
Yeah, I do too.
Definitely. Is he rewarded for his past play?
Yes.
What's he done?
That's what I mean. He was really good when the team was terrible.
Yeah, he was good in 2013, 2014.
And that's what he got paid for.
Yeah. One season where he got hurt in the playoffs.
Yeah.
He won a gold medal. Do you pay NHL players for winning a gold medal in the Olympics?
When you have literally like some of the best, if not most of the best players in front of you?
I don't know. Anyways, I'm not saying that Carey Price isn't worth $10.5 million. I just think that
he's not as good as he was.
He's not as good as he was, and I don't. Yeah.
Would you say Carey Price is the best goalie in the league?
No.
Would you say back when he got paid he was?
No.
Really?
That was only 2 years ago. If we're going back 5 years, yes.
Oh, so they really paid him for a glimmer of past performance.
Yeah, I think so. It's not saying he's a bad goalie. He's a very good goalie.
He is a good goalie, but there was a period of time where he was the best goalie.
Yeah, hands down, no questions. Statistically, like unbiasedly, just from, and sometimes he'd make those saves. He'd make those crazy saves. He doesn't do that anymore. It just pisses me off.
He doesn't have to do them anymore. He's getting paid.
I guess. Anyways, moving on. Tampa Bay won 6-2 over Anaheim. This is the exact game that you expect from the Tampa Bay Lightning. High-scoring game where you have your big players contribute. None of this Tampa Bay losing to Philadelphia. No offense, Philadelphia, or no offense anyone else who's beaten Tampa Bay.
We talk about all teams equally here. We love all teams.
But anyways, really important win for the Tampa Bay Lightning. And I just thought the Ducks kind of gave up on some plays, standing still. Didn't really receive strong goaltending. Just, I don't know, just frustrating, I guess, when we have a lot of chances. I think they had 38 shots or something like that in the game, have lots of scoring opportunities, and you still lose. It's very frustrating. Next game, the New Jersey and Detroit game. Honestly, I didn't watch much of this game. Devils won 5-1. That place was packed.
Yep.
You look at LA, pretty good success recently. You look at New Jersey. What the hell's happened in New Jersey recently in the past 10 years? They made the playoffs once or twice, 3 times maybe. That place was packed. So kudos to the Devils fans for packing that place. That was awesome. The next game after that was the Carolina-Florida game. Carolina won 4-2. Florida got out to a 2-0 lead, but Carolina showed its resiliency to come back and score 4 unanswered goals. This is exactly the type of thing that they did last year and were successful, went deep in the playoffs, and this is exactly the type of thing that I expect from them this year. They're doing it, and I fully expect them to make a deep push into the playoffs this year too. So good on Carolina. The Nashville-St. Louis game, Nashville won 4-2. The Arvidsson-Forsberg line looked really good last night. A ton of opportunities. Shots were 18-4 for Nashville at one point earlier on in the game. Nashville was just on overdrive last night. They looked really good. Sorry, I made a spelling mistake here.
Spelling mistakes don't matter in a podcast.
Yeah, it's true. It just threw me off. Saros was great as well. I predicted St. Louis to win that game, so I was totally wrong. The game after that, 2-1, Dallas over Chicago in a shootout. Dallas just keeps winning. It's crazy. I love it. 6 games in a row. I think an 11-game point streak or something crazy like that. Goudobin was unreal. He made a brilliant save last night and came over and stopped that. He did the splits, but it was beyond the splits. It didn't even make sense. And then he made secondary and tertiary saves on the same play. It was awesome. The fans were going crazy. It felt like a playoff game. All the fans were on their feet at the end of the game, and early in the third, it was unreal. So
he was icing between the legs after that game.
Oh yeah.
There's no way.
Yeah, we had some warm hands to help him out.
What?
I don't know.
Anyways,
the Edmonton-Vegas game. Edmonton won 4-2 over Vegas. Draisaitl and McDavid were amazing as usual. Smith was very solid. Theodore had a really nice goal. It was just a great game to watch from a hockey fan's perspective. The last game of the night, the San Jose Islanders game. San Jose won 2-1 in overtime. Islanders now have a 17-game point streak. Quite unbelievable. Pretty awesome. Big win at home, though, for the Sharks. They're in kind of an odd division because right now the Sharks are surrounded by teams who were pegged to do really well and aren't, and teams that are doing really well were pegged not to. So even if the Sharks do play well, they're playing against teams that aren't necessarily supposed to be where they are, but they're still playing really well. And then there's teams that are supposed to be playing well, but they aren't, but they're starting to now. So the division is just so tight, it's going to be really difficult for the Sharks. So that was an extremely important win for the Sharks last night. Now, today's games, there are 3 games on today. Buffalo and Florida. Who are you predicting?
Man, you got to stop making comments like that. Catch me off guard. This is reminding me of that old video we have on the channel.
The submarine video?
I'm trying to snap out of it here, folks. For you people that are listening, I really appreciate you guys because you can't see my face right now. For all you guys on YouTube, the memes are just going to be terrible. Please don't tag me on Discord with my face.
Buffalo, Florida. What are you picking?
I'm going to go with Florida.
I'm going to go with Florida as well. I think they're pissed. Carolina and Detroit.
Carolina.
I'm also choosing Carolina. Edmonton and Arizona.
I think Arizona.
What?
Yep.
Ooh, snap.
I got to go against the green.
I'm going to choose Edmonton.
Edmonton.
But I'm not going to be surprised if Arizona wins. They're playing really well. So, yeah. That kind of wraps up everything that I have, everything that you have. Now we want to let Dad chime in on his whole Don Cherry situation. So
yeah,
maybe we'll let him talk. I'll play the video and we'll make some comments after it's done. So Dad, take it away.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for having me on. First, I want to say that I watched the podcast from last Sunday, and I thought that Neil and Jason did an amazing, level-headed, really good, thorough job of dissecting the Don Cherry question. And I saw the comments. There's all kinds of comments from people congratulating them, two young men themselves, at having such a mature outlook on this whole thing and discussing the issues and not going off on tangents and using it to try to score points. They just had a thoughtful, deliberative discussion about what is a very troubling subject here in Canada in the last couple of weeks. Some of the comments wanted to know what I thought. And I'm not a regular on the podcast anymore, and I won't be. But Neil has agreed to let me weigh in, I guess, with some of my thoughts for those of you who think that what I have to say might be helpful in some way. I don't know if it is or not. I've, more so than Neil and Jason, I guess, I have grown up watching Don Cherry as an adult for the last 34 years. So I've seen the good and the bad, and I remember Don Cherry talking more so in the past about things that had to do with hockey. The no-touch icing, the elbow pads, refereeing, just generally about the hockey game. And he's an expert in hockey. But he's not an expert in other things. And it was the other things that always seemed to get him in trouble. Even when it was related in some way to hockey, he would talk about Europeans and Swedes and Russians coming into the NHL, and he didn't like that. He didn't like that when they came into the CHL to play against our junior players and to take up spots that were probably there for good Canadian boys. So Don's always appealed to that nationalistic part of what probably drives a lot of traditional white-bread Canadians. But the problem with Don Cherry is that he's attached to the Canada of 1950. And in the Canada of 1950, in the prairies, they farmed wheat. In Ontario, they made cars and forged steel. In Quebec, they were lumberjacks. And in the Atlantic provinces, they fished. And that's how Canada worked in Don Cherry's world. And Don Cherry doesn't accept, I guess, that the Canada of 2019 or even the Canada of 1980 does not look like the Canada of 1950, and nor should it. And I think he finally just went off the farm himself on the 9th of November when he talked about you people and just lumped everybody in as you people. He committed, I think, a grave error. Now, it wasn't unfixable at the time. When he said it, it was horrifying to a lot of people. I actually didn't see it. I recorded the game that night, but I PVR'd watching it later in fast forward. And when I got to the first intermission, I went all the way through Coach's Corner to watch the rest of the game. And I didn't learn about the controversial part of the remarks until the next day. By then, I'd already deleted it, so I had to watch it on the news. And I agreed. When he said it on Saturday night, man, this is bad. He's going to need to walk back this a little bit or put it in more proper context or apologize or do something, because it can't be left like that. But then he went along and said, I am going to leave it like that. I have nothing more to say. I'm standing by my remarks. To me, that was the fatal blow. Everybody says stupid things. I do it all the time, and I probably will to the day I die. In fact, as I get older, I'll probably say in stupider things, because old people tend to wander off verbally and say really stupid things, and I'm sure that's in my future. And all of us, if we're lucky enough to live to old age. Don is 85 years old, and he has He has lived a long and usually productive and exemplary life as a human and as a citizen. His respect for the military and for veterans is unquestioned, but you can't use that as an excuse to beat people over the head with issues like this, where it's just, all it is just total insensitivity on Don Cherry's part. And I want to just refer to a couple of things that I've read over the last few days. One of them was an article by Sean Fitzgerald that came out the day after this all happened. So this happened on Saturday, the 9th of November. This article in The Athletic came out on Sunday, the 10th. At this point, Don Cherry had not been fired. But Sean Fitzgerald talked about two people in particular. One was Gurpreet Dillon, and as a young boy, he grew up in Windsor, Ontario, and he wore a turban. It was part of his culture, part of his religion. And in Windsor, in the school that he was in, he was spat on, he was beaten up. He endured untold violence and racism at the hands of his schoolmates. His family finally up and left Windsor, and they moved. And nowadays, as an adult, Gurpreet Dillon is a counselor, a municipal counselor in the city of Brampton, Ontario. He's a lifelong Edmonton Oilers fan. He loves hockey. And he had the last straw that Saturday night when Don Cherry said what he did. And Gurpreet Dillon's biggest problem was he wasn't sure how he was going to explain this to his kids after all this. And I totally feel for him. Another guy that Sean Fitzgerald mentioned in his article was Suleiman Ahmed. Suleiman Ahmed is a wonderful human being. He works in Toronto. He's in the IT tech sector. He used to work for Apple. He's a Montreal Canadiens fan, passionate hockey guy. And back in 2015, he started a movement called No Fly List Kids because Suleiman's 6-year-old son happened to have the same name as somebody who's on the American no-fly list. So every time Suleiman and his family wanted to go on vacation by air, they were subjected to all kinds of I won't say abuse, but all kinds of bureaucratic crap, because they had to go through this business of making sure this wasn't the terrorist. And Suleiman said, well, no, this isn't the terrorist. This is my 6-year-old son. Now, that could have made him angry about living in North America, living in the Western world in the post-9/11 high-security environment. But he decided to not just complain about it, he decided to do something about it. And Suleiman got involved in a group of no-fly list kids, they call it, and they pressured parliamentarians in both the House of Commons and in the Senate. And in June of this year, they got the bill through the Senate and it passed. The work is not done yet, but they're trying to create a redress system where they can get their kids off this list without it costing a lot of money to do it. It should be fully funded. Suleiman is a great guy. I happen to know him, as a matter of fact. He visited PEI in 2016 with his whole family, and they went to Cayley's and they went to other very Scottish and Northern Celtic European kind of events because he wanted to expose his family to the rest of Canadian culture. Now, Suleiman is an interesting character for many reasons, but not the least of which is the fact that both of his grandfathers fought in World War II. One was a squadron commander in the Royal Air Force, and the other was a major in the British Expeditionary Force, and he went ashore in Italy and fought his way up through Italy right beside a bunch of Canadians. Now, neither of Suleiman's grandfathers were born and raised in Canada. They were from South Asia, but Suleiman was born and raised in Canada. He's a second or third generation Canadian, as a matter of fact. He's every bit as Canadian as I am, or almost anyone who's watching this in Canada right now. And he had it with Don Cherry that night. He'd even met Don Cherry as a kid because Suleiman's dad used to work for CBC 20 years ago. He met Don Cherry. He's a passionate hockey fan. He even cheers for the proper team. And he's an exceptional man and an exceptional Canadian. He raises money for veterans. He has sent, with a committee that he worked on, he sent a lot of money out to disadvantaged veterans out in the Calgary area. Suleiman is living it. He comes from a proud heritage of war heroes who fought with the British forces and Canadian forces in World War II, and he has every right to claim the benefits of living in a free and democratic country like Canada. And he has every right to choose whether he wants to or not wear the poppy. I don't know if he's anything like the rest of us. Even if you buy a poppy, you don't always wear it because, as Neil and Jason have both talked about last Sunday, it's almost like poppies are designed to fly away and to come off, so you have to buy more of them or something. But if Don Cherry saw Suleiman Ahmed downtown on Front Street in Toronto, he would probably think he's one of those people, one of you people. But it's anything but. It's the total opposite. Suleiman is a card-carrying, 100% born and raised Canadian with a background of war heroes on both sides of his family. And he takes no lessons from a buffoon like Don Cherry. Don Cherry is just, he's a foghorn. He's just all bluster and blow. He doesn't listen to anybody or anything. He's just a foghorn. And people have just had enough. I thought years ago there was all kinds of reasons to maybe put Don Cherry out to pasture. Not so much for the things he said, just because I thought he was becoming increasingly less and less effective as a commentator. I would rather hear Brian Burke talk about the real business of hockey, or Cassie Campbell, or Haley Wickenheiser, or Guy Carbonneau, like they were on last week, talking about the game, talking about their experience in the game. Don had run out of those kinds of stories, and he was becoming almost a cartoon of himself. So it was time for him to go. But that said, I don't have a lot of respect for Rogers and how they did this whole thing. Yeah, they gave him a chance to apologize, and he declined that chance. But when they finally pulled the plug on him on Monday, November the 11th, Remembrance Day of all things, they said, "It has been decided it is the right time for him to immediately step down." It has been decided. That is the most evasive, chicken beep language you can hear. They don't even want to own the fact that they made a courageous, maybe, decision to get rid of this guy. If you're going to make a decision and pat yourself on the back for it, for upstanding Canadian multicultural values or whatever, attach a name to it. Use the name of your president, your director of hockey operations, whoever, who made the decision to get rid of Don Cherry. It's something they want to be proud of, but they're not that proud of it, are they? They're using chicken language to say it has been decided. It's spineless, it's evasive, and Rogers should be ashamed of themselves. Rogers employed Don Cherry for decades, knowing the kind of guy he was, and actually liking it. They wanted him to be outrageous. They wanted him to be the train wreck that might happen at any moment. It's why some people watch NASCAR racing. They want to see the big accident. In the case of Don Cherry, they want to see the big accident on TV, and on Saturday night, on the 9th of November, they got exactly that. Don Cherry had the big accident and then didn't even say he was sorry about it. He said, "No, I stand by what I said." That, to me, was the fatal blow. Someone else can decide if Don Cherry's a racist or not. I'm probably not very well equipped to say whether Don Cherry's a racist, being an older white guy, thankfully not as old as him yet, and I may never get to his age. And he's quite effective, quite agile on his feet, and when he talks for a guy who's 85, he's doing pretty good, except there's something not quite working there, right? So, is he a racist? Someone else can decide that. I know Suleiman thinks he is, and I completely understand why Suleiman Ahmed would think that Don Cherry is a racist. Based on what comes out of his mouth, that maybe is enough to indict him as a racist. At the very least, he's a boor, he's indelicate, he's insensitive, he's a bully, a verbal bully, and he really doesn't belong on TV anymore. I really was torn back and forth for a while, like should they have fired him, should they not have fired him, but I'm very comfortable with where I've settled in my mind. Don Cherry maybe shouldn't have been fired just for what he said on Saturday night, on the 9th. But by the time it came to Monday, and he had chances to provide better context, to correct himself, to explain himself better, and he chose not to do those things, that is the death blow for me. He needed to be fired at that point, and Rogers did the right thing, although they didn't do it in the right way. There's one thing I do want to leave this commentary with, if I might, and I thank you for your patience with me on this. I had a friend who was an Aboriginal person, an Indigenous Canadian, who had a T-shirt on one day that struck me as very incisive. And I'll show a copy of the T-shirt, just one of the versions of it that you can buy on Amazon right now. But it explains, I think, very clearly and starkly to all European-based and other North American residents now what illegal immigration really looked like in 1492 or the year 1000 when the Vikings were in Newfoundland, or in 1534 when Jacques Cartier discovered Canada. With no permission of any kind, the Aboriginals welcomed the Europeans to what is now our country, even though they were unknowingly carrying all kinds of diseases that would wipe out 90% of the native population in North America. It went very badly, and now we're sitting here trying to control the thoughts of people when we discuss immigration as if we've been here forever. And we haven't. We haven't been here more than a couple of 100 years, most of us, some of us even less than that. And that doesn't give us any right to be better than anybody else when you see that T-shirt that reminds us all that until Europeans showed up in 1492 or 1534, this entire continent was the province of a culture with thousands of years of its own heritage. So who are we to be the way we are if we're like a Don Cherry? We have no business being like a Don Cherry. We need to open our minds and open our hearts, and we need to take stock of where we are in this country, and we have to look at someone like Suleiman Ahmed or Gurpreet and see how they have contributed to Canadian society and made us a better country and continue to make us a better country every day. And we need to be able to look and see the brown people or the yellow people or the red people or the white people not as colors but as Canadians. And if you wear a poppy, that's wonderful. I wear a poppy. I work for the Veterans Affairs Department for Canada. I work for the nation that provides for veterans, and it's a very proud job that I have. I'm just very blessed to have this work, to do what little things I do in my little corner of the office to hopefully deliver benefits to veterans. I think it's a wonderful calling, and I wear a poppy, obviously. But if people decide not to wear a poppy, maybe like Neil said, he's got a tattoo in here. If someone sees him one day and he doesn't have his poppy on November the 8th in 2 years' time, they might think that he doesn't care, but he's proven that he cares, and we all care in our own way. As important as the poppy is as a symbol, it's not the only thing. Don't just buy a poppy and think you've done your work for veterans or for the Legion. It's the spirit of what the poppy actually means, to honor those who have died in preserving our freedoms and those who continue to serve in our military. So there's all kinds of ways to celebrate that. There's all kinds of ways to be a good Canadian. Don Cherry has decided to take a different approach, and for that, he doesn't belong on our TV anymore. And that's the way I see it in the old Post to Post headquarters. Back to you.
All right, thanks, Dad, for doing that. I really appreciate it. You had some pretty bold statements to make in that.
I liked it.
In that little thing, it was pretty good.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily agree. Like, he was pretty harsh on Don Cherry. We weren't, maybe more specifically me. I can't really remember exactly what you said in last week's podcast, but he was pretty strongly worded towards a couple things, which is I definitely respect having the balls to say what he did, and he made some really good points.
I don't think he said, in terms of the general picture, I don't think he really said anything more than we said. I think both of us would agree that Don Cherry's time was probably up.
Yes.
So he did say that. He just was more in your face about it, which is fine.
Call him some names.
Yeah, that's fine.
I mean, not terrible names.
It's a hot take. Well, it's not really a hot take, but it's gonna get reaction.
It's gonna piss some people off. That's fine.
Yeah. I liked it. I didn't find anything wrong with it at all.
I really enjoyed it. I will say that
a lot of people have been asking for it.
Yeah, a lot of people have been asking for it, and I think regardless of what he has said in the past, said in that video, or will say in the future, he's such a well-spoken person that you almost find it hard to disagree with him sometimes because he is so well spoken and he is such a good speaker. But yeah, I really appreciate. Thanks for taking the time to do that, Dad. I really appreciate it. Let us know what you think down below in the comment section. We're gonna wrap up the podcast now. I think it's with including his video. We're up to close to 120 minutes, maybe
120 minutes.
Okay. 120 minutes. Anyway, I just want to end this with a quick thing. I was in Boston this week just for like a 1 day, maybe. Anyways, I left Thursday morning at 6 a.m. Drove to Boston, had some meetings. I got to see Gillette Stadium, which is kind of cool, just stay outside of it. Got to go to a huge Bass Pro shops. It was awesome. And went back to the hotel late that night, slept, left early in the morning, drove straight back here. It was a work trip, so I didn't really get to do anything totally fun. But it was pretty great. There's a couple people down there would have liked to connect with. We didn't have the opportunity, unfortunately. Got some funny pictures on my phone. I want to show you to you after the podcast. Please remind me. But I will say that I met some interesting Boston fans down there.
You always meet interesting Boston fans.
That thick accent.
Yep.
It was pretty great. So I'll say kudos to the Boston fans. I enjoyed meeting the people that I did down there. And I did something that I never thought I was going to be able to do. I crossed off a state I've never been to, Rhode Island.
Really?
I had really no intention of ever going to Rhode Island. Like if you drive to Florida, you kind of go around it. It's kind of this. It's on the Eastern Seaboard. It's the only Eastern Seaboard state I've never been to. I never thought I'd crossed off my list, but my hotel was about 15 minutes away. So I was traveling down there with my boss, and I asked him if he wouldn't mind taking a 15-minute drive down to Rhode Island.
I was wondering how you crossed through it. So yeah, if you purposely went out of your way to go, I could see that. But
yeah, he was super good about it. He understood. So I think that's state 27 or 28 for me, I think. So I have almost the entire Western Seaboard.
So what'd you think of it?
When you cross the state line where I did, it goes from shops, whatever, to like kind of dingy area. I'm not saying that all of Rhode Island is like that. I'm just saying the specific area that I crossed in was a significant change in landscape, if you know what I mean. But it's not saying I don't want to visit Rhode Island again. I would definitely like to go back and visit Providence, and probably in the summertime. I hear it's a beautiful place in the summertime. But anyways, yeah, I'm super thankful that I got to cross off my list and had a good time down there. Hope to go back. Might be going back sometime after Christmas if I do. Hopefully I get a little bit more time down there. I get to go see a game. I thought about going to the game against Buffalo when I was down there, but it's just my meetings went late, and I wouldn't have been able to catch the train to go there. But I did bring my jersey and my hat down there just in case, but I didn't get a chance to use them. But anyways, yeah, thanks guys for listening and watching. I really appreciate it. Thanks Jason for joining me. If you guys want to leave your comments down below on YouTube, that would be awesome. I think I just want to send a thank you to everyone. Last week we asked at the end, let us know how you listen to the podcast.
Lots of feedback.
Yeah. If you listen on a train, listen on your drive to work, whatever.
Doing homework.
Yeah, lots of people left their comments and told us. So that was really great. I really appreciate you guys taking the time to do that. That really means a lot. So yeah, thanks once again for listening and watching. I really appreciate it. Hope you can hit the subscribe button down below or leave a review on iTunes or Google Play. And yeah, we'll see you in the next podcast. Adios.
What? I was holding that in.
What? The warm hand?